Hi, Isha.
Hi, Madhvi.
Isha, I just wanted to, we did a video on why we should do online therapy for children because we said that children's development doesn't stop because of lockdown or whatever that's happening in the world. What is your take on online consultation or online assessments?
Madhvi, that is one fact is very true that the child's development doesn't stop because of a lockdown,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, when we discuss that something is better than nothing, I still hold on to it completely. But we need to understand that psychology assessment or child development assessment was never made for online,
Yeah.
right? I mean, in last 20 years that I have been in this field, I mean, online, you imagine now observing a child online, just in the small screen. If the child runs away in the other corner of the room, you're not able to see,
Yeah.
right? So again, it was never made for online. So therefore, there are so many hiccups that come when we are doing an online consultation, when we are doing an online assessments. For example, for a hyperactive child, you can't make the child sit in front of me and answer questions or do an activity. The child is hyperactive, he is supposed to move on, and I need to observe that. Then only I would categorize that child into inattentive or hyperactive.
Mm.
So that is something that comes across a lot of difficulty, a lot of time consumption happens in that. But
Mm.
as I said about online therapy, I still hold on to the fact that we have to help them in any which way we can, possibly can.
Mm.
Therefore, the online consultation mode, therefore, the online assessment mode has come up. But this is again a very new thing that is coming up in psychology, especially in India. So a lot of consultations, a lot of assessments that we do that needs to be modified according
Yeah.
to the time, according
Yeah.
to how we are doing it.
Mm.
Right. So, I mean, we find out different ways to do it. We ask maybe questions, we take some videos from the parents to just make sure that the child does these things. So we have to find different ways.
Mm.
I mean, what do you think? I mean, at
Well,
Ananya,
same
yeah,
thing. I mean, consultation tak I'm fine because
right.
consultation is pretty much we're talking to the parents,
Hmm,
and maybe some interaction would happen in a real time consultation
hmm,
here and physically if we do it.
hmm,
And we'll have toys and stuff here
hmm,
for children to interact with while I'm talking to parents. I'm keeping an
hmm,
eye on the child in the background to see how the child is playing, what
hmm,
kind of play is happening, whatever, for
hmm,
so many things we observe when a child comes here.
hmm,
Whereas in online consultation, when I'm talking to the parent, usually the child is not in the screen.
hmm,
I tell them keep the child in the same room, but as you said, the child keeps moving out. Of
hmm,
course, a 2.5-year-old,
hmm,
2-year old, he's not going to sit and look at us on the screen all the
hmm,
time. So yes, still we can manage. When I can ask the father to, take your phone or computer and,
hmm,
I
hmm,
want to see the child, I want to observe the child, or
hmm,
make the child do this, or throw and catch a
hmm,
ball, or, play
hmm,
with the toys or whatever, ask these questions to the child. So the parents will help me in consultation.
hmm,
But if it's a proper full assessment where I'm actually going
hmm,
to give a diagnosis to the child based
hmm,
on the assessment that we do, I feel a
hmm,
little uncomfortable because
hmm,
how do I label a child on the
hmm,
just by doing it online? So I
hmm,
tell the parents, for instance, if the parents are stuck in a place where they can't when they can't come to the city, or they can't come to our center or go to any other center,
hmm,
we always tell them, we give them a provisional kind of a diagnosis. We have done that last year. You remember, we had few
hmm,
assessments. We both did it, and
hmm,
we told the parents that, and we wrote very clearly in our reports that
hmm,
this was done online. Okay,
hmm,
and we want to reassess the child whenever they are back in the city so that we can
hmm,
start helping the child,
hmm,
because without
hmm,
understanding why we are helping a child, we can't just help randomly,
hmm,
like I say,
hmm,
so we thought we'll start with that, and we told parents very clearly, come. And those parents actually religiously came when the lockdown was over. They
hmm,
came last year, that is after the last year's lockdown. Even now we are doing online consultations. We tell the parents the same thing.
hmm,
If you can come for 1 or 2 hours and go.
hmm,
If you're not comfortable, then we'll do it online, but make sure that whenever it's over, you are coming with the child, you know
hmm,
for no
hmm,
extra cost, but we want to meet the child
hmm,
and redo that whatever we
hmm,
did with your child online.
hmm,
So yes, I think for the time reasons, we can do something. But if it's IQ, how can you do? In IQ, no performance-based assessments can be done online. Well, if it's just observation-based, or it's like a screening questionnaire or something with little bit of observation and talking to parents, you can still. But when I interact with the child, I get so much understanding of the child. That's a huge resource on which I rely on for my conclusion. Otherwise, I feel jittery. I have not seen the child. I have not spoken to the child. I have not played with the child. I have not observed the child. Because in all childhood assessments, observation and play are two most critical aspects. And if these two are missing, you're just relying on hearsay of what parents have told us. And parents who are emotionally charged and so biased when it comes to their child, because I'm a mom, I know how biased I am when it comes to my children. And in spite of all my education, my intelligence goes down a few points when I'm with my children and making decisions for my children. But then and that's why just based our assessment reports on parents' report or parents' information is probably not very reliable without a professional correlation to that. So I would like to combine professional observation, play, professional playing with the child, to check all the age appropriate milestones, whether they are achieved or not, plus parents' observations, because a few things I can't observe, like sleep and eating and many things where my only source of information is parents, but very few other things I can use my observations and my judgment as a clinician. These two combination, I think, is perfect combination. But online assessments are my last option. First option is in-person assessments, because we did another video where we talked about 5, 6, 7 hour assessments here. The parents come sometimes 2, 3, 4 days here with the child, because we want to play as much as possible with the child, interact as much as possible before we just put a name on the condition, So that's my take on it, Isha. Yeah.
Something that you kept on saying here, and I completely agree, and it's very difficult sometimes to tell these to parents. A few days back, I was doing a consultation for an 11-year-old child, right? And the child has gone to multiple hospitals, has seen multiple doctors, and has not been diagnosed ever, Madhvi. I mean, the child for last 11 years, can you believe, has not been diagnosed. So when I was talking to the mother, they kept on saying that I asked, diagnosis hua hai, diagnosis hua, diagnosis kya hai bacche ka? मैम डायग्नोसिस तो आज तक कोई दिया ही नहीं है, दवाइयां ही दी हैं. I mean, in this age, in this world, you haven't got a diagnosis, for God's sake. The information is overflowing now.
Yeah.
Right. And second thing, when I asked about some play activities, ki aur log ke saath khela, because it's an 11-year-old child, so I have to ask if the child is playing with other kids or not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she very promptly said and very innocently said कि मैम प्ले का क्या है, आप उनको academics ही करवा दीजिए ना, वो academics ठीक हो जाएगा तो सब चीज ठीक हो जाएगा. It's very difficult sometimes to tell the parents that play is a very important aspect, right? And all the assessment, all childhood assessment is play based.
Yes.
Play does not mean that randomly we make the child do some exercises or some toys. They are all very structured and scientific.
We get these kits, play material kits with our assessments, and we have to use the toys in that kit. I've had parents who told that, oh, these toys we don't have at home. So my child doesn't know how to play with these toys. I don't think that's the criteria at all. The criteria is typically developing child without any developmental delays. Any child will be able to play with those toys. Because they are developmentally inclined. I mean, they are made to check the child's development. So we put the toys in front of the child and we see how the child is playing with those toys, and how he interacts with each toy, how he uses each toy kind of gives us a clue as to what must be happening in his development, So a lot of times I've had incidences where parents said, this is unfair. You're asking my child to do things that he has never done, But in a developmental assessment, these toys come with the kit. I don't make the toys. I have not made them, or I have not purchased them. They come with the assessment kit. And the child who is typically developing at that particular age and that toy, they have to play with the toy appropriately. If they don't play with the toy, there is a delay for the child. or whatever. There is a condition which is prohibiting them from playing with the toy age appropriately. There are few activities and few things that children will do in spite of not being exposed to. Like play is one thing, pretend play or different types of play, communication, if they're in a typically developing home, in a home which is like a normal home, where the parents are talking to each other and the child is with them, you don't need to sit and teach speech. Just by listening, they pick up speech. Like you don't need to teach them how to walk. When they're ready, they just stand up and they will try to walk. And eventually they will try hundreds and hundreds of time till they walk, But if there is a delay, then you know that the child is not even getting up. The child is not even standing. It's been 1 year. Like I just had a consultation. The father said that child walked at 1.5 years. I said, what are the other delays that you have seen in your child before walking? The parents said no other delay. So that sounded a little confusing to me. I said, oh, motor delay ho sakta hai, then why the child achieved other milestones? Then when I delved deeper, like the call went on for almost an hour, the consultation. And I kept on asking many questions, where finally the parents said that my child was sitting from the age of 6 months in front of an iPad for more than 4 to 5 hours a day, or a phone or whatever, a screen. So the child never even got a chance to get up and walk. The child was sitting continuously in front of a screen where his motor abilities were not stimulated. There was no need for the child to get up and move. Everything was being served to the child in front of him. So it's not actually a typical motor delay in the sense which was there by birth or something. But the child, because his motor, his muscles were not used, or his, whatever, motor development was not challenged, he didn't walk, So it's a different case for me, but still it's a delay, right? And then now the child has speech delay too, followed by that. And I told the father that once there is one delay, there's always some other delay associated with it. No delay happens in isolation. It's that my child has only speech delay, only teach me speech. It doesn't work like that. Whenever there's a speech delay, there is a motor issue. Whenever there is a motor issue, there are other issues. So we need to make sure that we do a 360-degree kind of an observation. A physiotherapist, an OT, a speech therapist, a psychologist, and if there are any other conditions, then those specialists also observe the child and give a very comprehensive report, so that we address all the challenges when the child is 2.5, not wait till the child is 11 in your case. It's too late. It's too late, because next year the child will probably be in already pre-puberty and then puberty, and then so many more other issues will happen at that age. Imagine we are addressing the developmental delay too. There's so much happening in the child's life. So for us, this is really important. For that reason, I would go for online assessments, because I don't want to delay helping the child. That's the only reason why I would do. Yeah.
And about assessments, when you're talking about Madhvi, I really want to put across, and it's like for the last 20 years I've been saying this, and I'm sure you have also been saying this. The assessments that we use are used worldwide.
Right. Yes.
It's not Indian specific or American specific or UK specific. It's not. It is used worldwide.
Yes.
And there are some questions in the assessment that may be not relevant.
Culturally not relevant. Culturally not relevant.
Culturally, exactly. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, but we can't do anything about it.
You can tell, Isha, if it's only like, for instance, any question related to breakfast, if there's a cereal box or a sausage and ham or something like that, I would just skip that. I wouldn't bother about that. I would ask them, what did you eat for breakfast today? If the child is able to tell idli, dosa, paratha, whatever, that's fine. They don't have to tell sausage and ham, because we can use our discretion, right? We just don't pick yes, no. And also, I would like to say one more important thing I wanted to highlight was like, few days ago, we had a parent. We have, DP3, right? The developmental assessment. DP3 में parent question interview होता है और अपना दूसरा वाला होता है. Like for professionals, we have 2 different screening questionnaires. So what we do here is we give the parent the questionnaire, or we sit with the parent and help them fill it, and then we take our questionnaire and we take the child and play to tick our boxes. So what happens is sometimes there's a significant difference in the parent answers, the answers given by the parents, and what we observe in that. So what do you think, whose answers we should take as correct? Because
Both
there was
actually.
a huge, there was this huge problem we have faced here. Because the parents
I know, and
take only parents' answers, and I feel that our clinical
not possible.
is important. How do we address this? Yeah.
Okay, this, I mean, I'll tell you, I mean, few years back, we had a discussion about this, right? I mean, one of the psychologists had filled the form, observed the child. I'm sure if I tell you which was the case, you'll recall it completely. I was sitting in this room only, right? And I was observing the child on the screen, right? And she was doing the assessment with the child. And when I was going through the questionnaire was there, and the psychologist was doing the assessment. So out of question, the answers were not matching. The parent had ticked yes, and I couldn't see that matching. This was not okay. So I asked you, and I think I had just joined Ananya, and I asked you, can I talk to the parent once? Yeah. Because the questions are not matching. The child is not able to do. Right. And I can see that the parent has marked yes. I need to know why the parent has marked yes. Yes. When does the child do it? Because the child is not doing in front of me.
Yes.
Right. So in that ways, sorry, the light fluctuated. So you would see me in black and white now.
No, it's fine. You're visible. No problem. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So that ways. So we have to go back to the parents, and parents also have to realize that we are not trying to hound them or question them. But I, as a professional, don't want to make a biased judgment also. Therefore, I'm asking them, okay, well, I have not seen the child doing. Have you seen the child doing? Then please correct me. When does the child do it?
Yeah. Or I'll even ask the mother, can you make the child do this activity with you?
Yes.
Because maybe the child is not doing because I'm new, and some children take a long time to break the ice with new people. I tell them, if you can make the child do, that's fine too. I want to see the child doing the activity. You know, because I somehow felt that the child is probably not able to do when I observed the child. The mother said yes, or the father said yes. And I'm not able to justify that by my own verification. In some cases, the child can do. In some cases, the child can't do. I will tell them that, ma'am, thank you so much for trying, but I need to report this in my report, that the parent has said yes, the child is able to do, but I need to write in the report that when I observed or when I interacted with the child, the clinical observation does not match the thing reported by the parent, you know, so that the next professional or whoever is working with the child gets this point of view clearly. It's not that we are not respecting their answer or we are not agreeing to them. It's their child. It's their child, and they have the first right to do anything with the child. But if they have come to us for our opinion, we need to give our opinion too, and that's my job. So to respect both. And also after these assessments, we get these reports when we send them over to parents, or when they come here. If it's online, it's even more complicated because they just read the report and they come with 100 questions. They say, you need to change the score here because the score is not correct. So what do you think? Would you like to change the score once you give a score to a child in the report? Because the parent is not happy with the score.
Yeah, and it is not in my hand. The scoring, that's the whole point. The assessment that we are doing, it's not a machine, but the protocol is very strict and very straightforward.
Yes.
I can't just mess up with the protocol, and that protocol is followed worldwide.
Yeah.
So the score in itself is not in my hand. So what the assessment is telling me how to score, I'm scoring just like that.
Yeah.
So before the scoring, as much talking, as much observation, as much questioning can happen. But once we are scoring and analyzing it, that's it. I have to follow the protocol.
Yeah.
So no, I'm sorry,
actually, but it's not correct. It's actually not being true to your profession, or you're not following the ethics of your profession if you change the scores because somebody is not happy with it. And that on that particular day, when the child is in your clinic or in your room, you did an assessment and you report what happened in that room on that day. And that's all it means. It doesn't mean that the child will never do the child cannot
Not at all.
the child will
Not
not
at all.
do. That doesn't mean that. It means that on that day of the assessment, the child could not do. That's all we are saying. We are not giving some kind of a sentence to a child. It's just an observation. It's a report. And again, I'm reiterating, in India, where there is no centralized database, these reports are not going into a database, and nobody is going to hold you accountable for with this. So you can just get rid of the report if you're not happy. I mean, if that is bothering you, you can go for another assessment and use that as a baseline if that makes you happy. You have that freedom in India, but most of the countries where there's a centralized database or where the reports are maintained, it's not possible to get rid of the report. And you can't even argue with the professional to change the score. Once they give a score, once they give a report, it's final, at least for the next 8 months or 1 year till they're reassessed. And when they're reassessed, yes, of course, it will change according to that day's performance of the child or that year's performance if they're doing like whole year observation or something. So that report is just to help the child. It's not some kind of a life sentence or a label that you're slapping on the child. It's there to help the child, whether it's done online, offline. The ulterior motive of everybody who does that is so that the child gets help immediately and the score reduces if there is a whatever, or the condition becomes better. The child is more functional by next year. Because of Corona, the time is just flying. They're not just in front of screens most of the time, So that's the whole idea. So online, offline, the agenda is to help the child, not to label the child. Yes, the first preference is definitely in person. The last option, we are not left with many options now, either in person or online. So the second and last option is online. We are all forced to take that option in the absence of other options. So thank you so much, Isha.
Thanks.
It's always really fun talking to you because I feel that I will be able to give my best opinions when I'm talking to you because you're equally passionate about the cause. And I feel that sometimes in this passion, in this the kind of passion I show, I can come across as overwhelming or overbearing in the room because I say, no, this has to be done. We cannot waste the child's time. So that comes through a lot. I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress, but I'm trying.
No, I mean, I'd rather have somebody like you who cares than somebody who just doesn't care. Yeah. I mean, I can have a discussion with you when you're telling me to do something. I said, okay, let me get back to you. Hold. And there have been so many times that I've heard. I said, okay, let me get back to you with my research and then I'm going to take it forward. Yeah. So I'd rather have somebody who works at me at that level and who works with children at that level, for God's sake. You want somebody like us to work with your children, not somebody who is ready to manipulate the scores or just not question you, because it is not in benefit of the child at all.
Yeah.
The more we question, the more it is beneficial for the child. Please understand that.
And negating everything that we are saying about their child, negating clinical observations is not in your child's benefit. We are here to help you. We are here to support your child. Just by changing the score, the situation will not change. Score is just a number.
Exactly.
In the heart of your hearts. That's why you came to us for help. When we are wanting to help, the first step is assessment. And when we do an assessment and give you a report, that's like saying this is what we think about your child. But we are not, it's not that it's coming from respect, it's coming from love, it's coming from helping the child. It's not coming to label or say that your child is disabled or say that your child has a condition. It's coming from a different point. But I think when parents are hearing these words for the first time, if there's a diagnosis like autism or ADHD or GDD or whatever, it bothers them a lot because of the stigma associated with those conditions. They think that, oh my God, my child has ASD. Oh my God, my child has ADHD. Oh my God, she's the first person who said ADHD for my child. She's the most horrible person who called my child ADHD. I usually face that kind of, not all, 90% of the parents are pretty receptive when we say, but there are always this 10% of parents who go literally bonkers when they hear these words. They lose it actually on us, and we are the first people to receive the anger from them. I keep my cool and I take a deep breath, and sometimes I feel like saying something, but I say, no, I'm shutting up my mouth. I'm not ready because they're not ready to listen, So when they are ready, they'll come back for help. If not me, they will go to somebody for help.
Yeah.
Because they feel that I have broken the bad news to them. Most likely, such parents don't come back to me for help. I've had incidences where they write bad reviews. They will just go berserk. But whatever, I don't know. Whatever I said came from the right point. That's important for me. I'm answerable to myself at the end of the day, not to anybody else. So when I'm comfortable with my answers, I go to bed peacefully in the night without worrying about any of those things. And some parents have come back to me and said, ma'am, that day I didn't get your message, but now we are ready to talk. And some parents never come back. I feel that my journey with them has ended. My journey was only to break the news. The rest of the journey they need to carry with somebody else. And those whose journey still has to continue, they will come back and continue with me. Otherwise, I'm fine. Let them carry forward their journey with whoever is they're supposed to carry forward. That's how we like to leave that. So, Shalo, let's answer the next question. Yeah.
Okay.